can remember that they're changing my voice. I know that the microphone is a little messed up. You have to bear with me. Um, the situation makes it so I can't just keep buying cell phones and microphones. So just bear with me here. This video is about Isaiah 5, Proverbs 12:3, and some other scriptures that are very key here. It's very important to administer true justice. We'll get to that in Zechariah 7:9 when we get to that part of this video here. So Proverbs 12:3, no one can be established through wickedness, but the righteous cannot be uprooted. This is key here. This is how the story ends, right? The world is trying to establish itself in wickedness. Everyone thinks that the answer is to do what is obviously stupid, which is disassociate from reality, abuse people, what have you. Okay? I should win the Nobel Peace Prize for how tolerant I've been, though I've been chastising people severely. But what is going on this planet is unforgivably sick here. What I've seen in my lifetime, what I've seen in the past week is something I basically knew I would see. A lot of poor people, a lot of sad people. I can't disclose my location at this point, but at some point I probably will, and you'll see what I mean. Before I got here, it's very important to note I've been very fed up of their nonsense, but I didn't let it cloud my judgment. I deal in logic and not emotion. If you feel that I'm dealing in emotion and not logic, please weigh in the comments and we can discuss that. But there's no excuse for how you treat the poor, how you treat black people, Hispanic people, how you've been treating Semites, okay? How you've been treating the peoples of the world, the poor, what have you. There's no excuse whatsoever. And people must be held accountable. With that being said, everyone outside the divine order is not going to heaven. What is going on is a very serious warrior test, and we're all related to some degree to warriors, some of us more than others. And you have no excuse for throwing in the towel and doing what they say and so on and so forth. So Isaiah 5:11. Woe to those who rise up early in the morning to run after drinks and stay up late at night till they are inflamed with wine. And this has various meanings here. One is that the wine stands for what you live and die for. Two is it's literally wine. Three, it has to do with reproductive cycles, or how wine is cultivated, the wine, the blood, the spiritual reproductive cycle, and the literal reproductive cycle. It goes on to say that they have harps and lyres at their banquets, pipes and timbrels and wine, but no regard for the deeds of the Lord, which includes my top martial arts challenge. And this is Isaiah, who says that the people are just paying lip service to God. If they really had faith in God, they really love God, they would be obeying God through me, is the message of it. That is the essence of it. But no regard for the deeds of the Lord, no respect for the work of his hands. Right? The right hand of God, the striking hand, the sword of Scripture, to spear something, spear it. Therefore my people will go into exile for lack of understanding. Those of high rank will die of hunger, and the common people will be parched with thirst. We see in Matthew 5, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now some of you might say, well, that's the New Testament, this is the Old Testament. Well, Christ, as a character in the story, is said to have read the Old Testament, and he's interpreting it for you, and he's connecting these things together. And quite often in the story, Christ, as a character in the story, is citing the Old Testament, including Isaiah. He says, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you hypocrites, etc. Therefore death expands its jaws, opening wide its mouth. Into it will descend their nobles and masses, their brawlers and revelers, right? They're brawlers, right? Going back to Set as a deity of brute force and the principles of evil, storms, chaos, rape by deception, rape in general, merchants, what have you. Fertility of evil people, what have you, right? Brawlers, people who aren't thinking straight. They don't have to literally be drunk. They can be drunk on their arrogance. They can be drunk off, hyper-nationalism, globalism, narcissism, drunk on themselves. So people will be brought low and everyone humbled, the eyes of the arrogant humbled. Now, how is everyone humbled these days? We see the rich looking like idiots, right? They make weird faces on the news, we see that they've been humbled wittingly and otherwise. They've been embarrassed. They've been exposed. We see the masses of people coming to terms with the fact that they're slaves, that the promises of the founding fathers were all lies, and they meant it to be lies. You know, George Washington spoke about how the principles of Illuminism, which is basically Luciferianism, was running through the Masonic lodges. And Abraham Lincoln said that he didn't want to be a Freemason because if he won the election, he would have won. He didn't want people to think that he would have won, that he won because he's a Freemason. So again, so people would be brought low and everyone humbled, the eyes of the arrogant humble. Now, why are they humble? Because they have no regard for the deeds of the Lord, right? His righteous martial art deeds. They have no regard for cultivating righteousness and justice. So when they have their wars in the Old Testament, like we see in 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, okay, Judges, that they won't be filled with righteousness and justice, right? Judges 3, God left the other peoples around the Israelites to teach them warfare. So in the next verse, when it says, but the Lord Almighty will be exalted by his justice, and the holy God will be proved holy by his righteous acts. Obviously, changing my voice to make it so it sound weird or like a retard doesn't change the facts. Okay, it's pretty straightforward here. Stumbling on words with an altered voice, with heart and truth, is infinitely greater than technology-assisted fakery and stuff going on in churches, mosques, synagogues, other people's videos. Everyone knows it's rubbish. Everyone knows it's mere theater arts, it's cowardice, where they're sabotaging me in this particular way because I'm the Son of God and they're just cowards putting on a show like a little girl playing tea time or something. Again, but the Lord Almighty will be exalted by his justice, and the holy God will be proved holy by his righteous acts. And that includes, you know, those who in the Spirit of God sort of testifying on God's behalf, like my top martial arts challenge, the hands of God, the hand of God, the arm of the Lord, the deeds of the Lord, the righteous acts, the justice of the Lord, the romantic justice, the martial justice, moral, mental, spiritual, and romantic justice. Then sheep will graze as in their own pasture, lambs will feed among the ruins of the rich. Another version says strangers will eat among the ruins of the rich. So that which they have, he who has will be given more. Those who do not have, that which they have will be taken away. Now, kind of paraphrasing, but you should see what's going on here. The parable of the 10 minas, parable of the bags of gold. Why haven't you scrambled to do God's work? And so these people who think that they're rich, they have mere worldly wealth, or they have mere Luciferian, fig leaves on, fine linen, which is supposed to stand for the righteous acts of the saints. Their fine linen is rubbish. It's filthy linen. They're filthy rags. They're naked. They're exposed. Woe to those who do not have the righteous acts of the saints, for they're shamefully exposed, shamefully naked. They walk in shame. So as we look at these scriptures here and how they connect to Psalm 9, in Psalm 9 it says something similar to Isaiah 5 verse 16. In Psalm 9 it says, the nations have fallen to the pit they have dug. Their feet are caught in the net they have hidden. The Lord is known by his acts of justice. The wicked are ensnared by the works of their hands. So instead of having the work of obeying God through me and rallying to me, they have the work of being yoked to the people who are in the generational cycles of cheating me out of my right to lead. And whether or not they know it, their forefathers and mothers have given them the blood of the saints to drink. And they're drunk off the blood of the saints, whether they know what's going on here or not. And that is the nature of alcohol. That is the nature of rebellion. If you rebel, say 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, and your people move far away and they don't maintain ties because they don't prioritize the ties with the Son of God, the bridge room, the bridegroom, the way, the truth, and the life, that they don't find their way to me because of generational neglect, right? Proverbs 18:9, one who slackens his work is brother to one who destroys, right? Whoever doesn't gather with me scatters, whether they see it that way or not. If they don't do that, they end up on a path of darkness. walking in the darkness, walking in the night. And for those of you who struggle with that, think of it this way. If somebody did not know that I'm back and that I'm here, and they're somewhere else, and they intend to do the right thing, okay, how long will they last? Will they go every day just praying and doing the devil's work? It doesn't take a genius to see that that's not the way to heaven. How can you love God with all your heart and just do the devil's work and pray? It's the parable of the two sons. The father said to one son, or said to both of them, one at a time, he said, go to the vineyard and work. One of them said no and went anyway. One of them said yes and didn't go. Which one did his father's work? The one who actually went to do the work. Okay? Pretty straightforward. So in a sense, it's a good thing that it ends this way in this video. In terms of this video, that is. And who knows, maybe I'll die after this video in terms of my flesh. But it's very clear that whether or not I remember the exact words of the story means nothing. It goes back to the parable of the two sons. One of them quoted scripture perfectly, but was a very evil, rapacious wolf who just rolled with society, rolled with the government, rolled with the governing class. Another one stumbled on his words because he's persecuted for righteousness' sake, like it says in Matthew 5 in Paul's letters. Which one should the attractive woman marry? Obviously, not the sniveling worm, not the cowardly punk who is allowed to be like a choir boy and present things a certain way, unharassed because he worships the devil, and the devil wants you to look up to people who worship the devil. But the one who's stumbling on his words, one who has to use a phone with a messed up mic after going through like 7 phones, after going through like 6, 7 microphones on top of those phones. Mics that, plug into a phone. This is not rocket science. If you want to marry a devil, then you marry some punk who is left alone, who's not gang stalked, but is probably gang stalking people. That's pathetic. It's not a marriage. That's 2 children playing a sick game of satanic sex. But if you want to marry a man, he's going to be in the divine order. He's going to be obeying God through me, or it's me. And that's the only marriage that's going to be valid. What God has put together, let no one separate. What these worms who mock God want to pretend is divine, run, not walk to separate that.